Hi, I'm Femi OK and you're in the stream. Today, why have stories of police brutality gone viral in Nigeria? And how is the police force going to respond?
I'm Malika Bilal, and I'll be bringing in your comments and questions. Now, if you look over to the panels here, you'll see just a sample of the thousands of tweets we've been getting on this topic. Now, remember, we want to hear from you, so keep those coming with hashtag AJStream. And of course, we're also live on YouTube. There's a chat off to the side on that site, and one of our producers is moderating. Type your thoughts, and I'll try to bring them up on air. Now, the EndSARS campaign has been big news in Nigeria and easily one of the most requested stories from our community this year.
It all started with just one tweet. A Nigerian Twitter user posted in apparent shock that they had witnessed a police unit shoot a boy. Though as yet unverified, the story prompted thousands of people to come forward with similar tales and demand that the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, or SARS, be disbanded. Just this month, more than 1 million tweets have been sent using hashtag EndSARS. Set up to combat armed robbery, its critics say SARS is now engaged in harassment, extortion, violence and even killing, and all of it with impunity. The Inspector General of the police force has promised a reorganisation of the unit and an investigation, but a police spokesman has also accused campaigners of being politically motivated. The protest, though, is not going away, and there are plans to take it to the streets next Monday to mark World Human Rights Day.
So, what next? How should the government respond? And is the EndSARS campaign an indication of deeper problems in the Nigerian police force? Well, joining us to discuss, Segun Orusanya is a life coach, technologist, and one of the main faces of the EndSARS campaign. Abayomi Shongule is the Assistant Commissioner of Police in the Complaints Response Unit. And Osai Ojigo is the Country Director at Amnesty International Nigeria. Welcome to the stream, everyone. I want to start with our community members. They were giving us a sense of what the name SARS invokes in everyday average Nigerian citizens. Here's one example. Saidu on Twitter says, Nigerians tremble at the mere thought of getting into the crosshairs of the SARS. That tells you a lot. Gone from being an anti-robbery squad to being a menace to ordinary citizens who just want to live normal lives. We want to feel protected, not threatened. And perhaps an example of what that actually means in everyday life is in this video comment we got from Chidi. Chidi tells a story about a neighborhood he lives in which a woman was allegedly shot and killed by a SARS officer. And here's what he told the stream.
On the 4th of April, Mrs. Kudirat Adebayo, a petty trader, minding her business at a roadside store, was shot and killed by a member of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad. 8 months later, the killer is still at large, and the family has been abandoned by the police and the government. You see, these and many more stories of murders, abuse, extortion, and other forms of harassment are the reasons why we're saying EndSARS.
Yomi, what do you make of comments like that?
Good evening, everyone. I'm here with one simple message this evening, that the federal government of Nigeria is listening to all the conversation regarding the EndSARS, and appropriate action has been directed to be taken. The Nigerian police force is also listening to the conversation around the EndSARS campaign, and appropriate action is being taken. Straight to the video of Chidi, that very incident, what happened that day, a group of police officers, they were about to arrest a suspect. They actually arrested a suspect, and when they were about to leave the scene, there was an altercation. A group of people prevented them from leaving the scene. And during the situation, I think shots were fired so as to enable the policemen to leave the scene. And it was in that process that the woman was shot. Let's get one thing clear. Yes, it is a sad incident. an unfortunate incident, but the shooting of the woman was not intentional, and the police officer was arrested. There was detailed investigation, and at a point in time, it was not, the investigation couldn't even establish where the shot came from, whether it was from the police officers or from the group of people that were trying to prevent the police from leaving the scene.
All right, let me just share this with you, Segun. This is from The Cable, a response to so many Nigerians actually saying, we do not like this elite squad of police officers. They're doing fantastically well. Police kick against #EndSARS campaign. How would you describe this squad, this special unit, anti-robbery unit? Segun.
Okay, thank you. If you look at the SARS, you will realize that they are becoming an extermination squad, an extortion syndicate. There is no outer of discipline in these people. They don't care about human life, and they treat people as if they are animals. These people are supposed to be disciplined, respected police officers who are meant to protect and serve the public. But the way it is, they see the public as their means of livelihood. You know, if you look at the way they handle citizens, you will be wondering if we are at war. And besides, when you look at a SARS officer, you will think you are confronted with an armed robber. Their composure, the way they carry themselves, the way they treat people, the way they operate, is just terrible. To a SARS officer, a phone, a mobile phone, a laptop, a young boy or man driving a car is a threat and is a national security threat. So these are the kind of things that we see daily, and the kind of reports that we get. You know, it begins to make us worry if we are in a country. If you have 200,000 negative complaints on a particular product, if you are a manufacturer, you will recall that product. You are not going to start attacking, intimidating, or trying to victimize or incriminate people who are complaining about this thing.
Let me just bring in Osai. Thank you, Segun. We'll come right back to you. This is Justice Jags here online. He says, I've had not one experience with SARS, but 5. And one of them I slept in the police station for 2 days for driving a car. End SARS now. Now, Osai, the problem with a lot of these stories is, how do we verify them? Who do we know who Justice Jags is? Is this actually really happening? Because the police can well be witnessing 200,000 reports of alleged police brutality, but how do they know? But this is something that you, as Amnesty, have been researching. And you put out a report saying you have signed your death warrant, torture and other ill treatment by Nigeria's special anti-robbery squad. So what's the truth from your perspective?
Thank you very much. You would find that when we actually carried out the research, we interviewed quite a number of people. We also visited many of the stations where people had actually reported that they have been tortured or they've been detained in. And we actually go and also speak to the officers in charge who are actually manning those places in order to build a story. And we just don't take one side of the story without verifying the information by checking with other sources. And what you'd find is that over time, people say similar things about similar experiences they've had in the hands of these officers. And so that tells us that there's a pattern. And then when you delve deeper and you speak with those who witness such incidents, you're able to get more clarity in terms of time, in terms of the officers involved, and in terms of the amount of violence that have been meted out to them.
Osai, I have a comment that I want to pick up on that's echoing really what you're saying, but first I want to bring this in because we just got this tweet from JP, who is saying something a little different than most people in our community. He says, I'm happy to say that I am a beneficiary of good policing. I stand with SARS. So those voices are out there. But picking up on the comment you made a little earlier, Osai, this is a comment we got live on YouTube. This person says there's more than enough video evidence flying around on Twitter to portray the dastardly activities of this criminal police group. Yemi, I want to pose this to you. What do you do with all of the reports, and we've gotten so many of them, of different incidents that are being shared on social media? What would you tell people to do when they have these incidents?
You see, the message is very clear. We have posters in all police stations in Nigeria, A1 size, and we have billboards across major cities in Nigeria with phone numbers where you can call 24/7, phone numbers where you can send text message, phone numbers where you can send WhatsApp message, phone numbers where you can send BlackBerry Messenger, emails, etc. And let me say, the Nigerian police force is the only police force in sub-Saharan Africa that has provided a 24 hours customer service care. And the simple thing we're just asking is give us date, time, and place. I don't see what is difficult in attaching a date, time, and place to a complaint. Look at the tweet that started the whole storm. Up to this moment we are having this discussion, nobody knows who the purported victim, the boy that was shot. Nobody knows the area, the city, or the town. You know, so most of these reports are unverified. And situations where we have gotten verified reports that investigations were carried out, the officers involved, they have been dismissed from the Nigerian police force because the Nigerian police leadership has a zero tolerance to unprofessional conduct. So all I would just urge is that the platform is there. Provide your details. Shegu mentioned of over 200,000 complaints. These are unverified complaints. Complaints without a name, complaints without a date, complaints without a venue. That might not meet the definition of a complaint. And when Osai made mention of
detail specifics, Yemi, you made yourself very clear. Shegun.
Please, I think we don't need to shame ourselves on international television. I don't want a situation where I respect the police institution. I am a citizen of Nigeria, and the major thing that we are asking for outside EndSARS, which is a byproduct of the end game of universal institutional reform. The police force is a shadow of itself. And it is not just today that this thing has been like this, but it has gotten worse since 2015. And rather than the police look inward and seek help and reach out to people, because there are institutional gaps, in the system. The gap between the town and the gown, gap between the police and the people, gap within the government and the citizenry. So as the case may be, when you raise critical objections to some things, rather than they look at those things and respond, they will not do this. They will go personal. They will try to incriminate. They will try to intimidate, and they will try to rubbish or discredit the voice that is speaking, that is raising that concern. Abayomi here, or ACP Abayomi, or Woli Abayomi, as we normally call him, because he's a man that likes titles a lot. Abayomi will block you on Twitter. He will block you everywhere else. The phone numbers he has provided, they are
Shegun, this is not a personal attack on one particular person. This is a nationwide issue. Osai, what did you want to add? Go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to stress the fact that when complaints are made, it will be interesting to find out what the complaints unit has actually done to check that the detention facilities where people have reported acts of torture and ill treatment, how do they monitor them? How do they ensure that these practices do not continue there? It will be interesting to see how they've been able to manage that. Secondly, people are always afraid to share information, and so it's important that they need to be reassured that when they do share information, there won't be reprisals, and that their information will not be shared with the same officers that they have complained about, and it can be independently investigated by a separate unit within the police. I think those reassurances are not there. But based on our research, which accumulated in the report in 2016, There were incidents that were shared with the authorities. Before we go to press, we always share this information to ensure the authorities can do their own investigation and can respond based on our findings. And so this is what I really want to put out there. The police needs to go beyond saying that some of these people have not given them enough information. The units you have, how have you monitored them? Do they give you reports? How have you been able to show that these reports, that these stations or these detention centers are not torture chambers?
Osai, it's like you were reading the minds of our community members when you speak. This is Lana, who says the National Police Force official said on national TV that we as citizens should ask for identification from SARS officers. Please, how do you ask men pointing guns at you for identification? Also, people are also reporting stories like this. Shanana on Twitter says, let it be known that they're now checking people's phones to see if they've been tweeting about the EndSARS campaign. And we got several people who are claiming that as well. Yumi, what do you say to these people?
You see, when there was a complaint from members of the public regarding illegal phone search by some unprofessional police officers, that was sometimes in 2015, the Nigerian Police Force made a press release, which I pushed out at the time, telling members of the public that a warning has gone out to stop police officers from accessing people's phone, and that if it happens, a report should be made. And let me also add that sometimes in 2016, Amnesty International wrote a letter to the Nigerian Police Force requesting to visit certain detention facilities operated by SARS in Enugu, in Abuja, and in, I can't remember the third state now. And my office facilitated that visit. Amnesty International was given 100% full access for that visit. But guess what? What Amnesty International discovered during that visit was not reflected in the report which they published, which Osai made mention of. And when I raised that, the representatives of Amnesty International told me that they are not a PR arm of the Nigerian Police Force, that they cannot report positive things that they have seen, and that is not part of their mandate. And I was like, if you have gone on a visitation, I think it is professional for you to report what you have seen and not just wanting only to focus on the negative aspect.
Osai?
You know, I still want to say what we want is verifiable reports.
Yes, you've made that point, Yumi. Osai, are you only interested in the bad news?
Definitely not.
Hello?
Amnesty is impartial. It's an impartial organization, and that means that we always give an opportunity to the other side and to also give a holistic view of what is actually happening. I would state here that if there have been incidents that have been reported to Amnesty International, we investigate that and we report that. And we give an opportunity to the respective institutions to respond on those issues. If they do, before the report is published, it is always included in the report. And in any case, when we often get these complaints that people say, oh, you don't talk about the good things we do. We actually investigate violations that have been brought to our attention. And then we give recommendations based on how this should be addressed. And that is the way we have always worked.
So pushing this forward a little bit, our community members are talking about reform. That's really the big issue here. G. Bemi on Twitter says the police should not investigate itself. An external body should be the one that spearheads that reform. We also got a video comment from a writer, a journalist for Quartz. This is Yomi Kazim. This is what he told the stream.
The mistrust for law enforcement agencies definitely goes beyond SARS. Nigerians historically have had a frosty relationship with soldiers and also with regular policemen. As to the question of whether they can investigate themselves or hold themselves accountable, it generally rarely feels so for Nigerians. Now, credit to them, they've put together machinery through which you can lodge complaints, but there are also several cases or instances where people have shared experiences about how they have lodged these complaints but they haven't received feedback or it hasn't been followed up on. Too often it feels as though SARS officials and law enforcement agencies in general tend to get away with some of these allegations. Now, this is crucial to note because this is something that they say themselves. They use language like, we could throw you in jail and nothing would happen, or we could shoot you and nothing would happen. There's that culture of impunity, and that has to go.
Segun, he says there's a culture of impunity. If you had your way, what kind of reform would you like to see?
The actual thing is a lot of communication and information is lost in translation with most of our agencies. And they need to learn how to communicate. Communication is a two-way thing. It's not just passing out information and expecting people to understand it. When they send out things, people make a lot of meaning. They make their own meaning out of these things. For example, you threw out an instruction that people should go into, should send phone number or information to a particular line. There is no feedback. There's no response. There's nothing to show that we received your information. And if we're looking at the reform, we're looking at accountability. We're looking at transparency. We're looking at justice. We're looking at acknowledgement of guilt, taking responsibility. Our police force don't take responsibility. The SARS are totally out of control. When they give an instruction, okay, dismantle roadblocks. The roadblocks are still there till today. Are we saying that there's no communication within the police system? Has the IG of police lost control of his men? They said they have reorganized the SARS, and the SARS have become worse since that instruction. They've been beating up people because of EndSARS campaign. They've been doing all sorts of things. So the impunity is getting out of hand. And yet, when we complain, we are the one drunk. We're the drunken ones. We are the ones. We're the political ones. We are the ones that are insensitive, to the affairs of the police. And this is really, really a serious situation because we no longer trust our police force. And if there's no trust between the police and the people, then there's a problem. How can we have ease of doing business in a country where impunity reigns within the police force, which is the nearest or closest authority to the people? So these are the concerns of citizens who love, or law-abiding citizens who love Nigeria.
Let me just share this for our audience. Thanks, Segun. We're almost at the end of this show. I want to show you a couple of instances of where Yami and his team have been successful. Police complaint. 3 policemen attached to Lagos State dismissed. Extortion. 4 policemen dismissed from service. 2 traffic wardens dismissed for extortion. And this one here from Sheikh, Yami. Sheikh is suggesting that the police shouldn't be allowed to investigate itself. My suggestion should be an invited organisation like Amnesty International or even the UN to help conduct the investigations, because even as you're publishing and sharing your success stories of catching people who you say were behaving badly in this SARS squad, you're investigating yourself. Maybe somebody else should be investigating. Is that a way perhaps to get towards reform, Yami?
Of course, we have outside agencies who have duties to outside oversight agencies. Like we have the National Human Rights Commission, we have the Police Service Commission. They have a duty to perform. What we are just doing is we are also doing what we need to do. And let me clear this, with the complaint unit, we give feedback. Every complaint that comes in has a tracking number. We give a feedback, we publish the outcome on our website, we do a quarterly report every quarter. And yes, it's good when we have outsiders doing the investigation. We are also doing it.
Let me just remind people that if they want to make a complaint, this is what the Public Complaint Rapid Response Unit recommends that you do. They say that bail is free, so if any of the police officers ask you for money, you do not have to give them money. There are a whole range of ways that you can actually contact them, also anonymously. And here at the very bottom is interesting, no to impunity. Is this actually happening in practice? Malika, how's this conversation been going down online?
2 short suggestions. Samsung says, how would a police officer be on duty without official uniform, vehicle, and identification? First step is ensuring that they have all 3. And this next person says, all we're saying is that they should end SARS and nothing more.
That's all the time we have for our conversation today. Thank you to Segun and Yami, to Osai, and to all of our online community for being part of this conversation. Our conversation will continue online using hashtag AJStream. Malika and I will see you there. Take care.